Tuesdays is known as $2 Tuesdays at WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com, where you can get the hottest handicappers' best bet or daily package for only $2.
Hey guys, Carmine Bianco, WagerTalk.com. It's the EPL preview. I'm excited. I want to get MLS behind me. EPL starting this weekend. France League One starts. La Liga is around the corner. Bundesliga, and of course, Italy's league, Italian Serie A, is starting. We are going to try and preview as many as we can, as well as giving you a bunch of plays, futures, and props in those leagues. To run them with me from Sports Memo, it's Pavlos Laguretos, and from WagerTalk.com, it's Nick Borrman and Kevin Dolan. Let's bring them in, guys. I know a couple of you guys are under the weather, but you're going to plug through today, and I really appreciate you guys coming on. Nick Borrman, how's it going?
Yeah, I feel a little better this morning. I felt like shit yesterday, but on the mend, and happy to be here with you boys, and looking forward to getting going with these European leagues. It's been a fun summer with the tournaments, but time to get to the real soccer now.
All right, Kevin Dolan, how you doing? Kev, before I throw it to you, I think I've said this before. I know you're not a big TV guy, but Ted Lasso, seriously, you got to watch it, Kev. Ted Lasso, an American trying to teach football in Europe. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, definitely. I'll check it out. Whenever I'm not vomiting, I'll check it out, because it's definitely been a rough 48 hours for me. But, gearing up for the new domestic seasons across Europe right now. Really looking forward to, this weekend's kickoff of the first one in France. We got them 1 year all access packages still up, massive discount and that. If you haven't had a chance to check them out, it's a great place to start. There's a few codes left. So looking forward to that, and looking forward to a huge season ahead and breaking down some of these futures winners today, which is no doubt, look, it's the biggest league in Europe, biggest league in the world, the EPL. So, excited about that.
All right. And yes, as Kevin mentioned, some of us up on our pages still have a big deal for the 1 year soccer plays. Those are regularly $9.99. We have codes up with our names and numbers on it, and you can get $400 off a 1 year package, essentially getting it for $5.99, which is less than $2 a day. It works out to get football plays from Europe and some from North America. It's a great deal with daily soccer going on. So it is a fantastic deal. Head over to WagerTalk.com and Sports Memo to take advantage of those deals. Pavlos Laguretos, I know you're looking forward to European soccer because the amount of props, exact scores, and different combos that are available, there's just a plethora of them.
Yeah, super excited. The French League One is starting this weekend, and I've already scouted some plays. I'm still waiting for the Champions League qualifiers to finish. I have a 3-pack for today, actually, with 3 plays on the totals and 1 on the side, 2 plays on the totals and 1 on the side. Super excited about the qualifiers, but I'm still, we're still waiting for the qualifiers to end. So, the new season begins, and every other week, a new league is starting. The Bundesliga, the EPL, the Serie A, everything is starting, everything is kicking off. So let's get to it.
Let's get to it. We will, of course, and then I'll have some show promo for you guys after a couple of these segments. But what we're going to do is we're going to break down 5 different segments on this show. The guys will give you their opinions on how this goes and some possible plays. We're going to do the PL title holders, who wins the title this year. We're going to do some top 4 opinions. We're going to do some relegation picks, who we think might get relegated. Top scorer picks, obviously with still some, the transfer window still open and some big names still out there. Still some very good odds that are available. And then I call this the Kevin Dolan one because he's got a good play on this one, the regional winners. And we'll explain that a little further at the end of the show. So let's kick it off right off the bat with who is going to win the EPL. A quick look at the odds. You'll see that Man City is -150. Liverpool and Chelsea at plus 500, which is 5-1. Man United with a strengthened defense and back line, 8-1 plus 800. And then after that, there's a bit of a drop off to some of the other teams that are out there. Tottenham, Arsenal at 40 and 50-1. Basically, if you're looking at these odds, and Kev, I'm going to go to you first on this one. They're pretty much telling you it's those top four as far as odds go. They're really not looking any farther back. I don't think Arsenal or Tottenham can make a run for it, even with Nuno as the new manager at Tottenham. I think that gets even worse if Harry Kane leaves. That's still open right now, Kev. As you know, 100 million offer refused. I think if City ups it to about 140, I think that gets it done. Give me your thoughts on a title winner here.
Southampton 200-1, absolute banker. I was actually told pre-show as a joke that if I picked Southampton for this show, I was going to get kicked off. So better leave that to the side. Yeah, I mean, look, there's some crazy rumors. 160 I was reading as well, million that it might go up to that as well. So everyone's kind of waiting on Harry Kane, especially now that he's missed the second day of training at Tottenham as well. So but in terms of EPL title winners, we talked about this briefly last week that I've already loaded up on Leicester 50-1 for all the reasons I outlined in that show. Quickly, Leicester's proven top four track record at this level. Brendan Rodgers trade deals in the off season, which I've really been impressed by. Boubakary Soumaré, Patson Daka, and so on. And I honestly think they'll be thereabouts in the title race later in this season. And if you're going to give me 50-1 on a team that I expect to be firmly in the mix in those Champions League spots by March, April, it's definitely a play for me. If you're looking for something, a bit more concrete, a bit safer, it's hard not to look past Chelsea here, plus 500. Defense wins championships. How many times have we heard that? And we talk about XG data a lot in this show. Doesn't always prove effective game to game, obviously, because of sample size. But when you're talking about season-long stats, it's a very reliable metric to use. And Chelsea were absolutely sensational in defense over the back half of last season. From February 1st right through to the end of the season, which was effectively Thomas Tuchel's reign in charge of the club, Chelsea allowed just 0.63 XGA per game over that stretch. Compare that with Manchester City, who allowed 0.90 XG per game. And that's quite a sizable difference over a season. Those sorts of chances will add up, and Chelsea showed just how resilient they are, at the back in that Champions League final as well against City. So the other bonus, obviously, for Chelsea is that they won't have to deal with their arch nemesis, West Brom, this season as well. Thomas Tuchel's kryptonite. So, Leicester probably still my favourite bet overall, just from a pure value perspective. But it's hard not to see Chelsea being firm title contenders by the end of the season as well.
Yeah, and then I'm going to go, I'll come back to you, Kev, in a second. I'm going to go to Nick on this one, but it's awfully tough. No disrespect to Man City at all. Fantastic team there, but tying up your money for quite possibly 6 to 7 months on a minus 150 just doesn't, I just don't see how you can possibly do it. You look at Chelsea and as Kev said, he made a very good point. Defense wins championships, and they're 5-1 plus 500. And we look at Liverpool a couple of years back, getting to the Champions League final again after losing it the previous year, winning the Champions League, and then the following year, it seemed like the focus that year was squarely on winning the PL title, which they did. It's what again, defense wins. I know Pep says the best defense is a good offense, because if you have 70% ball possession, you can't get scored on when you have the ball. But I have to believe this Chelsea team comes back stronger this year. Nick, thoughts?
Yeah, I think Kevin nailed it for the two most bettable teams. I mean, Chelsea, obviously Champions League winners, the second best expected goal differential in the league last year, behind only Man City. And listen, they were a new team last year, relatively. I mean, they got off to a slow start because they had all those new pieces. A lot was expected of them. They delivered towards the end of the year. They got better and better and better as the year went on. Obviously, became a whole different team once Tuchel came on board as manager. But, if they can get off to a decent start this year and not fall behind like they did last year at 5-1, I think probably from the top, the top four teams, they're my favorite of the top four. Anybody outside of the top four, I think Kevin's right. It's Leicester or pretty much nobody. 50-1, pretty good chance there. They had a top 4 spot locked up once again last year, only to let it fall away, and they collapsed down those last 2-3 games down the stretch to see that fall away to Chelsea of all teams, actually, which they qualify for the Champions League a different way anyway. But they have shown now a couple years that they have the talent, they have the depth, they can be a team that can contend in the top 4. And like Kevin said, if you're in the top 4, and you're getting towards the end of the season, you might have a chance. City ran away with it last year. I don't expect that to happen again this year. Liverpool, it's difficult for me there. I have a lot of question marks on the team. I mean, they had a down year last year. Of course, they had injuries through the wazoo. Van Dijk is back healthy. Will they be able to lift the trophy again? It is possible. I do expect them to be better this year, have better results, be higher in the table, challenge a little bit more for the title. But I just too many question marks right now. And United, all the talent in the world, but I don't trust Ali. I really don't. I mean, he's proven he can't win the big game. He can't get the trophy when he needs to. Another opportunities slipped away from him last year. Well, they just signed him for another 3 or 4 more years. So until we see something from him, I don't want to bet him. I don't want to tie my money on him. But I like Chelsea as the best of the top 4. And if you're going to go outside of the top 4, Leicester at 50-1 is probably the next best.
Yeah, and Pavlos, I'm going to go to you next on this one, and Nick makes some good points. I still not sold a wealth of talent with Man United, but it's still the managerial thing, and you have to put stock in it because if nothing else, all you have to do is look at Chelsea last season. Frank Lampard did a great job for the first half of the season, but the wheels started to fall off, and then all of a sudden they bring in Thomas Tuchel, and this is a completely different team, not only defensively but just in their setup and how they played. And they went back to that perfectly fine winning a game 1-0 as opposed to trying to win a game 3-2. And then to Nick's point of Liverpool, I think Liverpool will have a much better season this year. Obviously, missing Gomez, missing Van Dijk. Those are big misses for that team last season. It starts with it starts in the back line, and they're healthy now. But the other factor, and it's a fort at Anfield. At Anfield, fans back in the stands makes a huge difference this year, and we're going to see it. Give me your thoughts, Pavlos.
Yeah, you guys made some excellent points about not picking Manchester City right now because the odds are too low, and you don't want to have your money tied up in such low odds. And I think that Liverpool's odds should be a bit lower than Chelsea's. I mean, Liverpool, okay, they had a tough season last season with a ton of injuries, especially in the back line. Firmino wasn't performing well up front. There was clearly something wrong, and of course, it started at the back. And the Liverpool made a great addition. They brought Ibrahima Konate from Leipzig, Red Bull Leipzig, who is an excellent addition for the squad. Actually, I do see him getting the starting nod along with Virgil van Dijk. So Liverpool, they did lose Wijnaldum, who is an excellent midfielder, but they do have a lot of depth in their squad, and I think they're not done with their transfers. I think that we might see an addition of a midfielder in that squad. So about Chelsea, I mean, I loved them last season. I still do. I love them this season. There's no way I'm picking Manchester City at these low odds. I like Chelsea. Picking either Chelsea or Liverpool at plus 500 is surely something to look at. But I would advise to wait until the Hurricane deal is done. Whether it's Manchester City or some other side. If it's Manchester City, the odds on Manchester City are going to go even lower, which means that the odds on Chelsea and Liverpool will go even higher. So I suggest we wait a little bit until that clears off. And then at least I'm going to pick either Chelsea or Liverpool, maybe both. I mean, at plus 500, maybe a little higher. It's worth it. I mean, if you pick two of them, it's at least in my perspective, it's worth it. Now, Tottenham, I don't see them as the fifth. They're not a dark horse in my perspective. Maybe if Hurricane stays put, maybe we can pick them at 40-1. But I don't really trust them right now. Leicester's, Kevin made a great point about Leicester, but they're known chokers at the end of the season, so it's still a risky bet, but still a good bet at 50-1. And nobody mentioned Everton at 100-1. I mean, last season they made a great start. They were at the top of the league for quite a few weeks, but they did lose their coach. They did bring some additional players, Everton. I think they closed some gaps with Demarai Gray and Andros Townsend. But I think this is going to be a really tough season to predict, especially at the top four. I mean, the top four is, at least in my perspective, is done for. I think City, Chelsea, Liverpool, and United are going to be the ones. Arsenal, I don't like so much. Tottenham, especially if Harry Kane leaves, not so much. I think this is going to be like what happened to the League One last season, where 4 teams were battling for the title until the final stages of the season. So, I think it's Chelsea and Liverpool for me.
All right. That's Pavlos Laguretos of SportsMemo. Of course, Nick Borrman and Kevin Dolan of WagerTalk.com. Guys, we're going to move into the second one. We've got to sort of breeze through these and keep an eye on the clock. The next one is PL Top 4 Opinions. This is obviously teams to finish in the top 4. These are prices that are available at a lot of the books out there. If we look at the top 4, and Kevin, I'll go to you first. This is more of, is there another team that can break into the top 4 and surprise us? Because the prices on the 4 teams that we suggested or talked about, Man City at minus 1,600, Liverpool minus 400, Chelsea minus 400, Man United minus 350. You don't really want to tie up your money on these teams, but is there another team that could break into it, such as, and I'll throw one out there, because I always say if you're not involved in European play, you don't have to worry about resting players on weekends, and that is something that falls with Arsenal this season. Arteta will be able to use a full complement of players each and every week because there is no European play for this team. Give me your thoughts on a top 4 upsetter possibly.
Well, it's funny you mention Arsenal there, because I checked, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, Arsenal were posted up at 10-1 at most books for the top 4 market. I put some pizza money on that myself, mainly because of the rumours of the types of players, Mikel Arteta was looking to bring in, and not only that, but also who he's looking to get rid of. I think Ben White from Brighton, terrific addition to this Arsenal backline, maybe slightly overpaid for him, but he should really shore them up in that department. He also added Lokonga in the midfield from Anderlecht as well, but as we said, not just in terms of who he brought into the club, but who he also let go as well. David Luiz is now gone. He also brought a ton of players back from loan as well. So Arteta's really shaping this team into what he wants, and with the young players he already has at his disposal. Arsenal, I think there should be a much improved outfit from the team we saw last year. As you've shown there on the graphic, though, unfortunately, that line's been cut into around plus 450 now, so the value's probably gone there. But Arsenal should still be one to watch out for later this year, as they try and get themselves back into the mix for Europe. Apart from that, kind of no surprise here. I think you know what I'm going to say. Straight back to the well, taking Leicester plus 450 for top 4. Great player for all the reasons I outlined previously, and just way too overpriced in my opinion. So, yeah, Leicester plus 450.
All right, like it. Nick, I'm going to go to you next on this one. Give me your thoughts.
I like to look at, last season's XG for these season-long futures. I mean, 2 years ago, the top 4 XG teams were, of course, City, Liverpool, Chelsea, United. Last year, of course, they finished in that same boat. But the next best last year, so teams 5th, 6th, and 7th, the next closest that might have a chance, at least according to XG, would be Leicester, of course. We mentioned them. West Ham, and Brighton, of all teams, who was like the everybody made fun of them on Twitter and whatnot for the team that just had the best XG numbers every single week, but could never actually get a result. So when you're trying to get these season-long tickets, it's tough. Those teams showed over the course of the season they were getting chances. They offensively were creating chances. They were holding their opponents to somewhat, at least less than what they were generating. Will that continue into this year? Of course, can't. Nobody knows for sure, but it's a good sign of anybody that those probably are where you're looking at for the next chances. But Leicester, I mean, honestly, we already mentioned it a million times as your next best bet. I do like what you said about Arsenal not having to to rest players. And I also wonder how much Tottenham's really going to care about the Europa Conference. So it might be a little opportunity there too. But of course, too much uncertainty with Kane there. So, but I think Leicester plus 400 is probably your best bet.
All right, Pavlos, final word on this one. Can you find a dark horse here?
Everton 10-1 and Aston Villa. Actually, Aston Villa is 17-1, 16-1, but there is another there is a market to finish in the top 6, not in the top 4, and Aston Villa have plus 550, and I much rather play that. But as far as the top 4 goes, I like Everton at 10-1. I mean, they were excellent last season. I think they improved. They closed some gaps in their roster, and I really do believe that they have, they have some valid chances to do something good this season.
All right. That is Pavlos Laguretos of SportsMemo.com. Guys, it's $2 Tuesdays at WagerTalk and SportsMemo. $2 Tuesdays is where you can get a Capper's top play for only $2 over at WagerTalk.com. It's none other than Mr. UFC, Kyle Anthony. He has a top play for UFC 265. You can get that for only $2. Along with that play, there are some great promos within the analysis section. Over at Sports Memo, it's Rob Vincelletti. He has a UEFA soccer qualifier. You can get that as well for $2. These are great deals. You get one of the hottest cappers at each site and their top play for only $2. And these plays normally go for $35 and $25. So head over to Sports Memo and Wager Talk and pick up those plays. All right, guys, we're going to head over to the third of 5 categories. As good as who's going to win is always who's going to be one and done if it's one of the 3 relegated teams. But we're going to look at who gets relegated this year. And this is where you can find some decent prices. Obviously, right now, Norwich at minus 120 lead the way. Watford plus 100. Brentford, who are newly promoted, plus 110 as well, too. Crystal Palace plus 175. Burnley plus 250. And then we'll go with Newcastle plus 275. Those are the 6 choices right now. I'll tell you right off the bat, I'm going to go with Norwich at minus 120. Not a lot of big moves. Sometimes this is one of those ones that what goes up must come down. And Kev, this is where I'm going with this one. This is Norwich coming up and then heading right back down again. I just don't see, unless some of the teams like Newcastle or Crystal Palace falter. And those 2 teams made some positive moves during this off season, so I don't see how Crystal Palace or Newcastle get relegated. So that leaves Norwich, along with 2 or 3 others, battling for those bottom 3 spots, or to avoid the bottom 3 spots. Thoughts?
We're going head to head, Carmine, because the one thing I will say about Norwich is, look, he's got experience now. Just in terms of, this will be the second time Norwich have been in the Premier League. Usually teams just aren't up to it when they first go up and they get blown out. They have more experience now, and with that comes a bit more resilience. So I do expect them to put up more of a fight. My favourite team to go down are Crystal Palace. I love the value in them. I don't see how any team can make that many changes to their overall structure, and do well here. They have brought in some centre-backs, in fairness, in the off-season, but that was never Crystal Palace's problem to begin with. Palace were 3rd bottom in overall XG last season, ahead of only West Brom, Sheffield United, the 2 teams who finished bottom. They were 2nd bottom in XG from January 1st on as well. And, we seen them last season, without Zaha, who was out injured for a portion of last season. They look absolutely clueless up front. In terms of trade deals, Zaha's not confirmed out yet. But look, we know he wants out of this club. Roy Hodgson confirmed that at the back end of last season. And we also know the club need to cash in them sooner rather than later, as they've arguably already lost around 40% of his value since pre-COVID market figures. So, we see those sharks circling: Arsenal, Everton, Chelsea, Tottenham. I believe AC Milan are in the mix as well, all declaring interest. So I'd be very surprised, if he's still got a Palace shirt on at the start of this season. And Tottenham probably looks like the most likely destination if they're looking for someone to potentially replace Kane later this month. So, the other red flag for me here is obviously Patrick Vieira, fired from Nice last December, bottom half on the table, bottom half XG, bottom half XGA. He claimed just 3 points from a possible 15 in the Europa League campaign before he was let go. Massive protest as well from Nice fans throughout most of his last few months there. So is he the right man to steer Crystal Palace to safety in the Premier League? I doubt it. In terms of other contenders to go down, Newcastle, always a favourite of mine for the drop. They consistently finish bottom quarter in overall metrics, but in Steve Bruce, they have a guy who continually overperforms, and St. Maximin have a proven level match winner as well. So I'm going to stay off them. But, for other two teams I really do fear for the season, and if you'd have asked me last season, I pretty much laughed in your face, or Wolves and Burnley. I think they both look on extremely shaky ground to me this year. Nuno's gone from Wolves, we know that. Rui Patricio's gone to Roma. Rumours circulating as well that Neves may go to Arsenal. So, on top of Diego Jota and Matt Doherty, who left last season, a lot of the core of this Wolves team that found success in Europe is now gone. And it's no easy fix, to simply come in and plug these holes. I've never been a particular fan of Raul Jimenez. I always thought he was a bit overrated as a forward. He wastes an awful lot of ball. But if Wolves are to survive this season, he really needs to hit the ground running here, as Wolves were third bottom in overall XG from February onwards last season with him out. And if he comes out of the blocks cold here, this team could be in real trouble. The last team I'm going to talk about is Burnley. They've been one of my, if not my favourite team consistently over the last few seasons. I love backing Burnley. I think anyone watching this show knows that. They made me a ton of money taking them on the handicap. But one place above relegation last season, fourth bottom in XG, sixth bottom in XGA. Sean Dyche has done a magnificent job at this club of keeping them competitive. Consistently, the lowest ranked club market value-wise in the league, even over teams who've just come up from the Championship like Norwich and Brentford. So I don't know how much longer they can continue to spend so little and expect to survive, in my opinion. They went from 10th to 17th over the last two seasons. I wouldn't be surprised if that goes even further this year and lands them firmly in the relegation zone. As despite Dyche's magic, I'm just not sure they're up to the job. So Crystal Palace, Wolves, Burnley, relegation treble pays out at 66 to 1. Definitely worth the play at those odds. But if you're looking for a clear-cut, straightforward play, Crystal Palace plus 175, definitely my favourite team to go down this year.
All right, sounds good. Hey, listen, Patrick Vieira, you can't give the guy a tough time. I understand what you're talking about at Nice. And listen, he was about a 500 manager at Nice, 35 wins, 22 draws, 32 losses. And prior to that, managing in North America with New York City FC and 40, 22, and 28. So he's pretty much there. And when you're trying to avoid relegation, sometimes a 500 manager is good enough. Nick, give me your thoughts on this. Does anything stand out as far as a team to get relegated?
Well, first of all, while Kevin was talking, I kind of closed my eyes and just imagine Kevin reading me Moby Dick. I think you need to do an audiobook segment, Kevin, because your voice is amazing. I love it.
Thanks.
Listen, I agree with Palace. Palace at plus 175, I think, is a good value. And Burnley, Kevin's right, is, those two teams were the next teams as far as expected goal differential that didn't get sent down. West Brom, Sheffield United, bottom two. Next best, or next worst rather, were Burnley, Crystal Palace, and then Fulham at fifth, and Fulham, of course, went down. So those were the two teams in between the three teams that ended up going down as far as performances last year. And Burnley, I agree, time they're getting really plus any goals, but especially over plus one goals, you got to take them. Somehow they just cover everything, but doesn't mean that they're playing very well. So besides those teams, I'm trying to look high, for something a little bit longer of a shot. I won't, repeat everything Kevin said. So I was looking for something a little longer. I try to look for teams that are either in this case, overperforming their expected goal metric. Because if you look at the table, one team you're going to not pay attention to as far as relegation goes is probably Leeds, because their results were actually pretty good. But they overperformed by quite a bit. They were the second most overperforming team behind Tottenham, but I don't think Tottenham's going down. They averaged plus 0.21 goals per game more than their opponents, but their expected goal was minus 0.1. Not a huge number in the negative, but it's a pretty big overperformance over the course of the season. That at 9-1, they may, if they get off to a slow start, I think they're going to be flirting down there through the season, and you may be able to hedge yourself out towards the end of the year by just taking games against them when they need to win. But it's hard on the relegation side to get a lot of value like you could trying to get the top four team or an outright winner. But if you're going to stretch for anybody, I'm looking at Leeds just purely because, I think they overperformed quite a bit last year. And if they play more to what their expected goals showed, they will be in the bottom 5 more than likely. So I'll take, a 9-1 chance on them kind of fighting themselves out towards the end of the season.
Whoa, Nick, you're putting out a price there. I love it. Good thoughts on that one and information. Pavlos, last word on this one.
I'm gonna take Watford as my main candidates to be relegated. Last season they had 8 wins, 7 losses, and 8 draws on the road, which was the 8th best away record in the championship. And I was actually looking at their stats from when they play in the EPL, and they traditionally suck really bad on the road. I mean, the last season they were in the EPL, they had 2 wins, 13 losses, and 4 draws. The one before that, they went pretty good with 6 wins, 8 losses, and 5 draws. The one before that, 4 wins, 13 losses, 2 draws. The one before that, 3 wins, 13 losses, 3 draws. I mean, you get where I'm going with this. They traditionally suck on the road. So I think that this season as well, they'll have a trouble getting points on the road, which is always, you have to take points on the road in order to avoid the relegation, right? And I think that Watford won't have such an easy time getting points on the road. And I'm looking at their roster, and they didn't make any big moves this season. They did bring back. They brought Danny Rose, which is an excellent addition, and they brought also Joshua King from Everton, which is a good player up front. But yeah, I think that Norwich. I'm sorry, Carmine. I think the Norwich will somehow find it to stay to avoid the relegation. Kevin made some great points about Crystal Palace. I mean, they sent off Van Aanholt, their starting left back, Sako and Cahill, the starting center backs. They completely revamped their back line, which can either be very good or very bad. I think it's going to be very bad. And Crystal Palace, they've been dropping in the standings each season that passes, and Zaha stays there. I mean, the guy just wants to go. He said so many times. I want to leave. I don't want to be here. And when he doesn't leave, he plays very badly, and then he takes the entire team with him. And so maybe he leaves before the transfer window is over. But if he stays, I think we're in for another toxic season under Wilfried Zaha, and Crystal Palace should be able to, they'll have problems staying here. Also, Newcastle, they didn't make any additions. Of course, they have, they're a true grit. They have true grit, but true grit won't always save your seasons unless you actually play good. And last season they played good at times, but they looked really flat at other times. So I think Watford at plus 100, Crystal Palace, I agree with you guys, plus 175, and Newcastle. Burnley, I picked Burnley last season and they saved the season, but yet again, Kevin said it. You can't expect to stay in the EPL without spending money. I mean, they spend just a few money, just a little. They get a couple of players to close some gaps, but we clearly see that this is not enough. So yeah, Watford, Crystal Palace, and Newcastle for me.
All right. My thoughts and prayers go to your money on Crystal Palace because they will save their season. Pavlos. All right, guys. A show promo for you guys. Obviously, we have some great packages up on our capper pages, but if you're just a fan of EPL and you only want the EPL plays from one of these show handicappers, you can get those plays. Every single play released during the season of EPL is normally $299. You can get $50 off using the coupon code EPL50. So for $249, you can get every single play released by your favorite capper. Head over to WagerTalk.com or SportsMemo. Click on the soccer menu, and you'll see EPL season package. And click on that, enter the coupon code, and you're all set. Get it for $249 every single play for all 38 rounds of the EPL season. All right, guys, we're short on time, so we're going to zip along. We're going to go with top scorers now. Just your thoughts on who can win and possibly, because we talked about this on last week's show, and a possible dog. I'll go first and just say I talked about Harry Kane on the last show at plus 350. And if that move comes to Man City, I still think that's a great price, which will go lower. And then I talked earlier in the show about the fact that Arsenal, and there's no love affair with Arsenal here, but not playing any Europe this year, and it's just the league for them. You're going to get a guy like Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. So, my God, I butchered his name. 25-1, Kev. 25-1 on Abba to win the Golden Boot. That's got to be a good price. Is it worth some pizza money?
Yeah, I mean, I have two players loaded up at WagerTalk for the Golden Boot. I got Iheanacho for Leicester plus 5,000, and I got Aubameyang for Arsenal at plus 2,500. So I'm in complete agreement there. Iheanacho, top goal scorer in the league from February 1st onwards last season, 12 goals and 15 appearances for Leicester to close out the season. He will face a bit of competition from a rejuvenated Jamie Vardy. He looked tired at the end of last season. The new Patson Daka as well coming in, but 50-1, crazy price for a guy who finished off the season that strong. And as you said, Aubameyang, I said in the top four segment, I expect Arsenal to be much better this season overall. And he's still the main man for this club. So, when you're getting value like that, 25-1, the main man for a club you expect to do well, I like that price. So, yeah, Iheanacho 50-1, Aubameyang 25-1, like both of those.
All right. Nick, I'm going to go to you next. I'm going to throw a scenario to you. If Harry Kane leaves and goes to Man City, who becomes again, because you talked about Tottenham not really being concerned with that Europa League conference stuff, who becomes the top scorer for Tottenham possibly? Is it not Son? Is it someone else? And you can get prices of 25, 35-1 on him, I believe.
You stole my thunder, Carm. It's okay. He was fourth on the list last year, 17 goals. And that was with Kane there. So, yeah, Kane goes. Doors wide open for him. He's 33-1 right now at DraftKings to get the Golden Boot. I also like Fernandes. Guy takes the penalties. He's on United. He scored a ton of goals last year. He also gets a lot of assists. So if it comes down to a tie, he probably holds the tiebreak edge there with the assists as well. So Fernandes 25-1, Son 33-1. Kane 4-1 this year, just not quite going to do it for me. So I'm looking at either one of those two this season.
All right, Pavlos, I'm going to give you the final word on this one. I know you're a huge Timo Werner fan. Does he bounce back this season?
Yes, definitely. With Olivier Giroud out of the way, of course, he still has competition with Tammy Abraham, but I think Timo Werner does have a clear shot at 14-1 to win the top goal scorer. I mean, I love Son. I love Aubameyang. I'm going to throw Ivan Toney from Brentford at 50-1. The guy is coming off a huge season, of course, it's just a wild horse. Much like Temo Pukki a couple of seasons ago with Norwich. But I like Werner. And I also love Son, especially if Harry Kane leaves. Son's 25-1 will drop it even further. So, yeah, if you feel like it, just go grab it now.
All right. Final one, guys. The regional winners. We're going to go through this quick. As far as regional winners, this is obviously groups of players. Top London club, top North London, West club, and not top Midlands cup. So you look at the top London club, and obviously a team like Chelsea minus 300, and they probably win this one. I don't think either Tottenham or Arsenal finish ahead of Chelsea. North London, a little tougher. If you think Liverpool can finish ahead of Man City this season, or even Man United, you're getting plus money on those happening. And the top Midlands club, and I'm going to throw it to Kevin on this one, can either one of those teams, I just don't see it happen, beat Leicester or finish ahead of Leicester. Leicester's closeout this year is a lot different than the last 2 years, where they had tough closeout their last 5-6 games and they sort of fell apart. Much easier schedule to close out the season this year, so hopefully they don't choke. But are they the best of the three here, Kev?
Oh, for sure. This is actually my top play of any future going in. I already put it into the 1 year all access pass at minus 150 a week or so ago. That line has now jumped up to minus 225. So obviously I'm not alone in thinking that 4% play on Leicester to be the top Midlands club. I gave my thoughts already about Wolves. I don't see them in any way, shape or form challenging Leicester this season in any capacity. And, Aston Villa, I just don't see them being able to replicate their heroics of last season either. They started really, really well, but their lack of depth showed towards the end of last season. And, kind of similar to what we said about Zaha at Crystal Palace. Villa showed how reliant they are on Jack Grealish when he went out during a portion of last season. Their numbers absolutely tailed off. So I don't see them being competitive against Leicester either over the full season. And, honestly, Leicester, even at the new number of -225 to finish ahead of both Wolves and Villa, is one of the bets of the season for me so far.
Yeah, and I just, you look at Aston Villa, and sure, they are a short price at +250, but again, with the transfer window still open, and Nick, I'm going to go to you next on this one. If Grealish leaves, that team isn't as obviously isn't as strong as they were last season. It's got to hurt them. Give me your thoughts.
Yeah, for sure. The regional winners here are tough because you got big price on one team and then it falls off quite a bit. The best option I think you have is that Northwest division. And honestly, if you're going to bet either United or Liverpool to beat City, you might as well take them to win the whole thing because it's probably going to be, City's not going to finish fifth. So it's good if they're going to beat them, they're probably going to end up winning the whole Premier League. So I don't have a great play here. There is one other option for best promoted team. I'd go with Brentford as far as the best promoted team out of the three, the Bees, +150. I think they have the best chance. They had the best numbers last year. I think would be good there. But otherwise, I would probably look at Liverpool over City. But if you're going to do it, go ahead, go with the to win the Premier League in general.
All right, Pavlos, Crystal Palace +800 as the top London club. I'm guessing you're not going that way. Give me your best pick of the three here.
Guys, I really like Aston Villa to be the best club in the Midlands. I mean, they brought. I talked about them before. They brought in Buendia from Norwich. The guy had the most assists in the Championship last season. He had 16 assists and 15 goals. And they also brought in Leon Bailey from Leverkusen, who's another great addition with a lot of pace and down both flanks. And they also brought in Ashley Young, the former Manchester United left back or right back. He can play both sides. From Inter Milan. So in the event that Grealish stays, I think that Aston Villa will have a great shot at overcoming Leicester. I like the odds here. I think that Aston Villa +250, especially if Grealish stays.
All right, love it, guys. 5 different categories we've gone through, giving you guys some plays on these, and I'm going to put these guys on the hot seat as well as myself. We're going to come back and revisit these throughout the season. I've got everything jotted down, so we'll see how we're doing as far as that goes. Thursday's show, guys, just to let you know, Thursday's show, we will cover France's Ligue 1, which kicks off on Friday. We'll have a new feature, which is Capper of the Week, and which comes with a great promo for the weekend. So please tune in on Thursday at 10 a.m. Don't forget, it's $2 Tuesdays at WagerTalk and SportsMemo. Your chance to get the featured cappers plays for only $2 over at WagerTalk.com. It's Mr. UFC Kyle Anthony. He has a play for UFC 265. It's a top play. He has been money since the beginning of 2020, so you can pick that up for only $2 along with some promos with inside the play. And at Sports Memo, it's Rob Vinciletti. He has a UEFA soccer qualifier play. And again, you can get that for only $2. Thanks for tuning in, guys. And we'll see you all Thursday, 10 a.m.
Sign up for the free WagerTalk Text Club to gain access to free plays and exclusive discounts. Just text WagerTalk to 33222 to sign up and get a $10 coupon to use on WagerTalk.com.